Welcome to the deep dive.
Good to be here.
So today, we're looking towards Panama City. There are some, interesting signals coming from the mayor's office there.
Yeah, about a potential Bitcoin reserve, right?
Exactly. We've got this Cointelegraph article detailing it, and our goal really is to unpack this.
Get into the skin of it.
Yeah. What could it actually mean for Panama City? And, how does it fit into the bigger picture, the whole global adoption of digital assets?
Okay, let's dive in.
So, what kicked this all off?
Well, the thing that really sparked this speculation was a pretty simple social media post from the Mayor Mizrachi.
Simple how?
It just said Bitcoin reserve. That's it.
Huh. Cryptic?
Very. And the timing is key here. It wasn't just random.
Okay.
It came right after he met with Keiser and Stacy Herbert. And these aren't just any crypto people. They're central to El Salvador's whole Bitcoin strategy.
Okay. Keiser and Herbert. So tell us a bit more about them. Why are they so significant in this story? The article sort of flags them as important.
It does, yeah. So Max Keiser, he's actually President Bukele's Bitcoin advisor, like a really key strategist for El Salvador.
Right at the top.
Exactly. And Stacy Herbert, she runs their national Bitcoin office. So she's deep in the operational side, setting up their own Bitcoin reserve.
Gotcha. So meeting with them, that strongly suggests Mayor Mizrachi is looking very closely at what El Salvador did.
It certainly points that way, doesn't it? He's likely learning from their experience.
Which naturally makes us think about El Salvador's reserve. The article mentions their holdings. Can you give us a sense of the scale there? What does it really mean for a country to hold Bitcoin like this?
Well, El Salvador's holdings are pretty substantial now. The article puts it at around 6,179 BTC.
Wow. And in dollar terms?
At the time of the article, that was getting close to $640 million.
That's significant.
It really is. And the bigger deal is it shows a nation, a whole country, incorporating Bitcoin into its treasury. I mean, just a few years back, that was pure theory. Now it's real.
Okay, so El Salvador sets this precedent. Now, back to Panama City. Has anything happened there already that might make this idea of a Bitcoin reserve seem, less surprising? It's not totally out of left field, is it?
No, not entirely. And the article points this out. There was a recent measure approved in Panama City.
What did it do?
It essentially allows people to use certain cryptocurrencies for public payments. Things like taxes, fines, other city fees.
Which cryptocurrencies? Just Bitcoin?
No, actually, Bitcoin, Ether, that's Ethereum's coin, and also the stable coins Tether, USDT, and USDC.
Okay, interesting mix.
Yeah. Now, the actual payment systems, the rails, they aren't built yet, but the legal approval is there.
So the door is open, legally speaking.
Exactly. It shows a willingness, at least at the city level, to engage with these digital assets. Accepting different cryptos like that, including stable coins, which are, pegged to the dollar, it kind of paves the way.
That makes sense. If you're thinking about holding Bitcoin, maybe having ways to use it locally is a logical step first.
Could be part of the thinking, yeah.
Now, the article makes a point of distinguishing between a city reserve and a national one. What's the key difference we need to grasp there?
That's a really crucial distinction. Look, Panama City, setting up its own Bitcoin reserve, that would be big news, for sure.
Yeah.
But a national reserve for Panama, that's a whole different scale of operation.
How so?
Well, for that to happen, Mayor Mizrachi couldn't just decide it. He'd need to work with Panama's National Assembly. They'd have to create national laws.
Okay, so it involves the whole country's legislative process.
Right. And the article is quite clear. There's no sign right now, no public indication that those kinds of national-level talks are happening.
So for now, we should probably focus on this as a potential city initiative.
Yes. Based on what we know, it looks like a Panama City-level consideration at this stage.
Okay. But that meeting between Mizrachi and the El Salvador team, it wasn't just about the reserve idea, was it? The article mentions other things like mining, education.
Yes, absolutely. And these are important pieces of the puzzle. Max Keiser posted something about it.
What did he say?
He mentioned their talks included ways to use renewable energy for Bitcoin mining.
The energy question. Always comes up with Bitcoin.
Always. And he specifically mentioned El Salvador's geothermal power, which they're already using.
Right, the volcano energy.
Sort of, yeah. And Panama's own big resource, hydroelectric power. They have a lot of that.
So using renewables, that's a big focus.
It seems so. Finding cleaner energy for mining is, a major discussion point. Looking beyond just holding. towards the whole ecosystem.
And what about the education part? That also sounds quite strategic.
Definitely. Stacy Herbert announced something interesting there.
It was.
That Panama City is planning to add El Salvador's financial literacy textbook called What is Money to its online library.
Huh. A textbook from El Salvador's Bitcoin office.
Yeah. It signals they understand that adoption isn't just tech. It's also about teaching people the basics of money, how Bitcoin might fit in.
So building understanding alongside the infrastructure.
Exactly. It's more of a holistic approach, trying to build trust and knowledge.
It's really fascinating, this potential exchange of ideas, of strategies between Panama City and El Salvador.
It is. And the article also tries to place this in a wider context, mentioning other places thinking about Bitcoin reserves.
Right. It's not just El Salvador anymore.
Well, El Salvador is still the only nation doing it, but the idea is spreading. The article mentions, for example, some U.S. states. Arizona and New Hampshire had bills proposed about state-level Bitcoin reserves.
Bills proposed, so not done deals yet.
No, still early stages there. And there were also reports mentioned in the article suggesting Ukraine might have looked into a national Bitcoin reserve, too.
Okay. So there's a definite trend, or at least a growing conversation globally.
Seems like it. At different levels of government, people are starting to consider Bitcoin as maybe part of a future financial toolkit in this digital age.
Okay, so let's try and pull all this together then. What are the main takeaways here? What's the real significance if Panama City does go ahead and start holding Bitcoin, even just at the city level?
I think the implications are pretty significant. First off, it's another step for crypto moving into the mainstream, isn't it? Beyond just individuals or companies using it. Now we're talking government entities seriously considering it.
And it highlights El Salvador's influence.
Hugely. It really underlines how El Salvador's, pioneering move is acting as a potential blueprint. Others are watching, learning. We might be seeing how other places, maybe starting smaller, like at the Sana level, could begin exploring this path.
What are the potential upsides for Panama City itself?
Well, you could argue it diversifies their assets. They could position them as forward-thinking, maybe a hub for digital innovation that might attract investment, talent.
Okay. But there have to be downsides, too, or challenges at least.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin's price swings.
Yeah.
It's volatility. That's a major risk for any entity holding it as a reserve. That's the big one.
And regulation.
Yeah, the rules around governments holding and managing digital assets like this, they're still being written, basically. It's complex territory. Plus, security, the tech infrastructure needed, that's not trivial.
And public opinion, I guess. Politics.
Definitely. You'd have to manage public perception carefully. There could easily be political debates about whether it's a wise move.
So thinking about this for you, the listener, what's the bigger picture takeaway? This is where it gets really interesting, I think.
It is. We're seeing this experiment by a small nation, El Salvador, potentially ripple outwards and influence policy in a major city in another country.
It raises some fundamental questions, doesn't it, about the role of these decentralized digital assets in the global financial system. Where do they fit?
Exactly. And this interplay between, say, a local initiative like Panama City's potential move and those broader national conversations. That's something to watch.
It really makes you think, what happens if more cities start doing this, holding Bitcoin in reserve?
What does that signal about how we even define money in the future? Or about governance itself in an increasingly digital world?
Yeah, it's definitely a development that leaves you with some questions to chew on.
For sure. Lots to think about there.